Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name is Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. And in today's video, my videographer Tom has asked me to explain how to buy your first investment property. Now, I wanted to do that with you, but before we get into that video, I need to draw the lucky winner from last week's subscriber giveaway, which was a book. And we've got the thing up in front of me, the comment picker. Is that what you call it, Tom? The comment picker, I sound confused.
Just say we've got the random comment picker.
So you can't say it, I've got no chance. Let's just crack on and keep this in. So let's do the random comment picker and see who's won the book. As soon as I find out, here we go. It's somebody who's money. So the winner is Pound Money. But guys, we don't just give away books on this channel, we also give away money, don't we? To maybe money. So we've got the subscriber dividend portfolio. If you like making some money, please give this video a big like and subscribe if you're interested in this sort of content. But Tom, let's go over to the whiteboard because I want to go through exactly how I would buy my first investment property. I'll tell you a little bit about how I did as well, and I'll give you as much advice as I possibly can, and hopefully many of our viewers will also find this interesting. Now, the first thing on my list, and it always is the case, is to make a plan. And I believe passionately in plans. So I think you need to know what destination you're trying to get to, and then you can start to work out how you're going to get there. So let's take Tom's, for example. He's looking to buy his first property. That is the destination, okay, to own a property. And it has to create income for him. So that's our kind of parameters of what we're working with. And I can see really two ways of kind of attacking that. Number one would be to do it as a personal house to live in and renting out the spare bedrooms. And the second way would be with a buy-to-let mortgage or something like that. And if we look at the pros and cons in our minds really quickly, we could say with a personal mortgage, we know we can get away with about a 5 to 10% deposit, which will reduce the amount of cash we have to put in. A buy-to-let mortgage, we're looking at 20 to 25%. Which is much, much greater. So there are some negatives with that in terms of the amount of capital we would need in the first instance. So you need to understand your circumstances, understand where you currently are. Tom, how much money have you got?
Minus 150.
Minus 150. So in order for us to do this as quickly as possible, if I was in your shoes, Tom, I'd be looking at going, okay, maybe the less amount of cash putting down might be a better thing for me in my situation. So 5 to 10% is much easier to raise than 20 to 25%. Let's base it on a 200 grand property. We're looking at 50 grand or 10 to 20 grand. I know it's going to be much easier to get between 10 and 20 than it is to get 50. So Tom, you think you can get an extra 10 to 20 grand together? We've sort of talked about moonlighting, all that sort of stuff. You think you could get an extra £1,000 a month?
Yeah,
fairly easily?
Yeah, it's doable.
So if you really stretch, you could do it quicker, right? If I said 6 to 12 months, you could raise 10 grand in 6 to 12 months. It might be as simple as phoning your parents, right? And I genuinely don't think that young people need to be afraid of phoning their parents or family members. For some people, they won't have that option, and hard work might be the only way to do it, and that's fine. I got a bit of a leg up from my family at the beginning. Not massive, you know, I'm talking about 10, 15 grand, something like that, but enough to help me buy that first house. So I would be looking at your circumstances, Tom, and I'd probably say, and what I did for my first property was I bought it in my personal name and I rented for 2 spare bedrooms. So I bought a house in London for 176k. I then rented out for 2 spare bedrooms, so I think it was for £500 each, so that's £1,000 a month. The mortgage was about £800 a month, and we basically lived there completely bills free. And because we did that, we were able to save up super quickly for property number 2 because we were saving what we were previously paying in rent, which was the best part of a couple of grand a month. And I guess the same situation for you, Tom. How much do you pay for your rent bills, all that sort of stuff?
About 1,300 total.
1,500 quid, 1,300 quid, 1,300 quid. So there you go. As soon as you start saving that, huge amount of saving. So let's have a look at, first of all, raising capital. So first, we need to either get cash and we need to get a mortgage together. So that means a deposit and a mortgage. So if we're looking at 5 to 10%, we know we need between 10 and 20,000 if we're buying at 200,000. But what we really want to do is just get an idea as part of our plan of what we can afford. So we're going to go on to Rightmove and I'll put in a minimum of 2 bedrooms. And here we go, here's our option. So the cheapest 2-bedroom flat would be 155,000. I mean, you'd only need, even if you paid full asking price, which in this market you're not going to need to do, £7,500 on a 5% mortgage, 15,000 on a 10%. we're looking at a little bit more to get something a little bit newer. 2-bedroom apartment there. That looks quite nice. Bit newer, big rooms. You could easily rent out the spare room. I've got a property in Newbury. I know that rooms rent out for between £600 and £700 a month, depending on the size of the room. So, I mean, that's a good option. I mean, that looks very similar to my flat. They're big flats. They're good houses. Let's have a look at the location. Yeah, I mean, it's in the same development. So yeah, that's a good option. You see, looking at Newbury, for example, and we've chosen Newbury because we work here, I think the better option would be flats, because already I haven't found a house and I'm at 240,000.
But preferably, I would rather have a house to live in.
You prefer a house?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, garden for one.
For a garden? Are you a gardener, are you, Tom?
No, just like in the summer, because it's getting hot in the summers, you got a place to lie out on the back.
Dude, let me be clear, the cheapest 2-bedroom house that I found, which granted is all right, but it's terraced and small, is 235,000. You're paying an extra 70,000 to have it as a house. And this is not your forever home. So if it was me, I would say, just with your budgets and everything else, I don't think you can stretch for a 3-bed, but I would get a 2-bed, and I would personally rent out to a lodger for spare bedroom. That'll bring my mortgage costs down to the best part of 0, and then I can live there and save up for my next property, which in my opinion should be another investment property, but you might want to make it your forever home. I think young people quite often get suckered into this, how do I get my forever home at 24? That's never your first house, right? You know, when you're a toddler, the first thing you do isn't run the 100 meters. But nature has a way of making sure that you do things in a specific order. And one of the things that we talk about on this channel, one of the things that I haven't spoken to you about before, is the cost of transacting. So every time you buy and sell a property, you're going to pay stamp duty. Well, in this instance, as you're a first-time buyer and it's below the threshold, you wouldn't. But traditionally, you're going to pay stamp duty. You're going to pay solicitors' fees. You pay mortgage fees, mortgage arrangement fees, early repayment fees if you're coming out of a mortgage early, moving fees. All of this stuff can easily be £5,000 to £10,000 every time you transact. So if you put in sort of £5,000, £10,000 or even £10,000, £15,000, and then you transact again in 2 years, all of that money that you've done has just gone on fees. What I've learned in my journey is the less I transact, the more that I save in fees, and therefore the wealthier I become. So I would tend to say that my first property, Durian Way, 176, it's been revalued recently in the last year at 425, that I still own. It's still rented out. So you buy these assets with the aim of them renting out after you move out. So let's say, for example, you had to buy this on a personal mortgage, you moved in, you rented a room out to a lodger, that basically paid your mortgage, you lived there rent-free. You'd be £1,500 a month better off than you are today just by living there. Okay, you've got to share some space, but that's about it. That's the only trade-off you really have. And beyond that, you're starting to stack the cash, aren't you? So this £1,500 a month, I mean, that's what, nearly £20,000 a year, £18,000 a year. So very quickly, you're going to be able to buy property number 2, which again, in my opinion, should be a rental. But what we did was we bought one to move into, and then, again, we had a family at this point, so we had our family. But that property, Talbot Close, our second house, is now a 6-bedroom HMO. So we didn't sell it when we moved out. We rented out all the bedrooms, and that now makes £4,200 a month of income with about £2,000 a month's worth of expenses, so an average salary. When we bought that, we thought that was our forever home. I did not have the mindset of this is going to be a HMO later, and I wish I did. I might have bought something slightly different. But I promise you, your first house, if it's your forever home, then you got on the ladder and you forgot to climb. Right? And I genuinely think most people just need to get on the ladder and then they can climb, not get on the ladder and forget to climb. If you just think of it like this, let's say for example you bought a flat for 160 and your mortgage was 600, you spent 15k doing the whole deal, so you're 15k in, okay? You rent out the spare bedroom for 600, so your mortgage is now 0, so that nets off both of those things. Your current rent, just the rent proportion, because we'll assume the bills will be about the same, is about 1,100, I think you said.
Well, 13, 14.
1,300, okay, 1,300. Well, times that by 12, and I can tell you straight away, you're better off within a year, just on a cash-on-cash basis. So let's get back to how to do it though, because we're going to create this plan. We kind of understood, in my mind, what I would do, which is in your shoes, which is go down the personal route. You need to then raise the capital, which is find out how you're going to get the money. And I put cash, LISA and mortgage. And the great thing about the LISA is you can put 4K in every year and the government will put another 1,000. So every tax year you can put 4K in, the government will make up another 1,000. That is free money for you, but you can only use it to buy a house or when you're 60 years old. So you could easily use the LISA, which means to get to your 10,000, you could use 2 tax years and you'd only have to put in 8,000. So that might form part of your plan. The second part of the equation though is the mortgage. So you need to speak to a good mortgage broker right at the beginning of your journey and go, let me give you my circumstances. I've got 6 to 12 months to improve them. If you've missed any payments, got any CCJs, be really honest. Go, how do I repair this into the best possible state that I possibly can? And how much can I borrow? Because that's going to give you your equation of what you can buy. So I know your circumstances, so I know that the flats we've been looking at are within reach. So I'm fortunate that I can do that, and I don't need you to phone a mortgage broker. But you know, honestly, if you were just starting out, you should phone a mortgage broker, find out exactly what your circumstances need to be, how much cash you're going to need, all that sort of stuff. Things can change, obviously, the market changes, but it'll give you a good idea of where you are today. Next thing is to view houses or flats, and you need to go around, have a look at them. Bear in mind, again, this is an investment. It's not going to be your forever home. A south-facing garden with an acre plot so that I can pick my apples is not what you're looking for on your first property, in my opinion. Not if it's going to be an investment. And this is how to buy your first investment property, not how to buy your dream property. So we're looking really at the investment angle. So really bad areas you want to stay away from. You'll know they're bad areas. They'll either have boarded up windows, sofas outside. You know, sofas are supposed to be inside properties. You can tell a bad area. And then when you're going around a flat or a house, you need to look at space. How much space is there? If I'm going to be renting out a spare room, I need to make sure there's enough space in there, enough space for me, all that sort of stuff. That shouldn't take too long. These are very simple properties, especially on the 2-bed side. Very, very simple properties. There's not a lot to them. You're not looking at too much. Don't get hung up over oh my God, the taps aren't the right color, or I don't like the color of the walls. This stuff is quick, cheap, and easy to fix. But in my opinion, if it's my first property, what you should be looking for is move-in standard. If you had to do a renovation, you know we've saved up this £15,000. We've worked really hard. We've saved up 15 grand to buy this place. If it needs a new kitchen, a new bathroom, repaint, rewire, all this stuff, you can add another 20,000 to your savings. And suddenly it's going to take a lot longer. Much quicker and easier to spend an extra 5, 10, 15, 20,000 pounds on the property and make sure it's already done for you. So in my opinion, I would much rather buy something that's already done so I can just move in, get the rent coming in from the lodger, improve my current position from where I currently am. So that's the thing that I would be looking at when I'm doing that. The next one was to offer on several. And don't be afraid of throwing out a few offers, right? Some people are afraid of talking to estate agents and just saying, hey, if I was to offer around this, what do you think your vendor would say? So let's say, for example, property's up for 180 and you're thinking, the market's a little bit tight at the moment. I'd like to get it for about 165, 170. Throw it out there. Say, look, to be honest, 180 is a little bit more than I can pay. If I was to sort of come in around 165, 167, what do you think a vendor would say? And that'll give you an indication. Maybe there's no wiggle room. I've done that before on keenly priced properties, and they've just gone, look mate, it's 160. It's gonna go at 160, and I already know it's gonna go at 160, right? It's priced like that. It might even go for 170, because it's worth 180. So you've got to know the market, but throw the numbers out, have good relationships, and then you will get offers accepted, because you'll understand where the market is. Legals, you then need to instruct a solicitor. So let's say, for example, your offer's been accepted, you're going through your mortgage, you've got your cash all together, everything's ready. You then go through your legals, which is conveyancing. It's going to take about 3 months. They're going to check all the reports, make sure everything's good. And then you're going to finally, after all of this time, and the whole process is probably going to take you, I don't know, from making a plan to saving the money to doing the legals and completing. It might be as much as 18 months, right? Because you're saying 12 months to save up the money. So the whole process could take 18 months. It could also take 6 months, right? If you really, really go for it. Then you're going to complete. And on completion day, you're going to get your property, and then you can start doing the work. And then my biggest tip after that is to make sure you rent out as quickly as possible. Don't let your girlfriend change the plan. For example, my wife, at the time girlfriend, wanted to change the plan when we bought our first house. She was like, oh, well, maybe it wouldn't be good to live with other people, you know? Maybe it'd be better if it was just ours and we could get some cats and, you know, a dog. And I was like, well, we can get cats, but we're still having tenants. So we ended up with 2 cats and 2 tenants. But don't change the plan. If we had changed the plan, we would be so much worse off today. And then at the earliest convenience, as you're repaying things down, refinance, get that capital out, go again. If you're gonna sell, sell. If that was the plan, sell. But my advice on the first one, in my opinion, don't transact too much. Rent, refinance, move through that process and just repeat, buy more over time.
When you say refinance, is that like after a certain amount of time you kind of get the property checked?
Yeah, so after 2 years you could get it revalued and the value would come out and go, well, you bought it for 180, it's now worth 200,000, we could lend you another 15,000 on it. Your mortgage payments would go up, but it gives you access to money.
Does that mean you put the rents up? Or?
You might be able to if the rents have moved on as well. It's not a guarantee, right? The market decides the rents. Yeah. The price of the property doesn't decide the rents. If you look at a property in central London, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Like you can look at a property in central London where the rent is £700 for a room and that property might be £2 million. I've got a property in Didcot where the property's 500k and the rent's 750 because it's just supply and demand. There aren't that many en-suites in my town. You know, I mean, that's still not great. You go up further north, if you go up to like Northampton, you can rent out an ensuite within a house that's 200k for 650. So only £100 less rent and less than half the price of the property. But the key thing is to understand what the end destination is, make your new plan, because at this point you've got a new plan. I've done that plan. That plan was to buy my first house. What's my new plan? Is my new plan to buy another house? Or is my plan to go traveling, like you just said? Can I use that money to go traveling? Guys, that's my first overview of how to buy your first investment property. I hope you found it interesting. Tom, I hope you found it good. Let me know in the comments if you would change anything. Like and subscribe, as always, guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Remember, subscribe a dividend portfolio. That is Give It coming up in the next week, isn't it? We're going to give some money away. So we're going to give some money away in the next week. Make sure you like and subscribe, guys. See you soon.